NXT this week opened with an abduction in the parking lot. The most dangerous place in all of WWE is the NXT parking lot. Multiple kidnappings have taken place in that parking lot. This time, it was Top Dollar and B-Fab. Maybe they just wanted his sneakers. Top Dollar and B-Fab of Hit Row, they were grabbed by Legado del Fantasma. Swerve Scott was assaulted but not abducted ahead of his North American title defense against Santos Escobar. I like to think that these segments, when I see these kidnappings, I see them as a reenactment of how these main roster call-ups are usually done. Just picture Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. They drive up and they throw a hood over their head and just grab them, kicking and screaming as they throw them into the back of a van and they speed off while Triple H gives chase. Duke Hudson, whose new gimmick is that he is a master poker player, pinned Grayson Waller. Backstage later on, Grayson didn't seem too bothered by the fact that he lost. He was flirting with one of the female wrestlers. First, he tried to come on to Cora Jade, who blew him off. We'll see if that leads to anything between him and Trey Baxter this week. But Cameron Grimes came up to him and wanted to know how he could score with the ladies like Waller. And Waller suggested he needed some manscaping, especially with all that chest hair. And he talked about his big bushy beard and trying to get him all cleaned up. And he pulled out his phone to show him pictures of women in some dating app. Maybe it's that Slap Happy app that I just created. He's showing him pictures in a dating app, and I'm watching this and I'm just thinking to myself, boy, has Cameron Grimes fallen off from where he was only a couple of months ago. This guy went from being one of the most popular babyfaces on the show, who felt like he was on the cusp of maybe breaking out to that next level, to completely being lost in the shuffle. Like, this reboot could not have come at a worse time for someone like Cameron Grimes. And now we get a report from the website WrestlingNews.co that claims they heard that the reason Cameron Grimes was not called up to the main roster in the draft is because Vince McMahon wanted changes to be made to the presentation of his character. And based on this segment here, it looks like the makeover is coming for Cameron Grimes. Which always concerns me when I read things like this. All the stories in the past of Vince McMahon wanting guys to cut their hair. And in some case, there were reports about that with Adam Cole, that they wanted him to change his look or maybe cut his hair. Remember the story of Lance Archer when he was in WWE? They cut his hair, and they still didn't use him. It was like 5 minutes before he was going out there, I think, for his match. They wanted him to cut his hair. Angel Garza, he was told last year to cut his hair because they had plans for him, and then plans changed. And he wasn't on TV for what, 6 months? I don't know if a haircut is going to be part of this makeover. There is not much about Cameron Grimes that needs to be changed. He got over on his own as a babyface. There is a reason why I have said, when I look at the NXT roster, the closest thing I could see to someone getting over organically with the fans the way that someone like Daniel Bryan did in that babyface underdog role is Cameron Grimes. I believe that if Cameron Grimes was called to the main roster, the fans would take to him. And they may end up pushing him more than the company would push him. He could be that Daniel Bryan type of babyface. There's no need to blow up the man's character. But it looks like changes are coming. We got a coming soon vignette for yet another new name, Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa. He is the son of Rikishi and the brother of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. He is the third Uso. And that makes him the cousin of the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. But they didn't mention any of that in this promo here. He said he got the name Solo after being left on his own from a young age. And he was street champion of the island. He did not specify what island. It could be Long Island. I don't recall him being the street champion out there in Nassau County, but I suppose it's possible. I thought the street champion of the island was MJF, who grew up in Plainview. Maybe it was Solo Sikoa. He didn't specify what island. Main event was Isaiah Swerve Scott defending his NXT North American Championship. His first defense since winning the title in June against Santos Escobar. I thought for sure with Swerve moving to SmackDown, this is where the title would finally go to Escobar, who was not drafted. But he should have been. Instead, they swerved us. Swerve got swerved on this show. Scott gave Escobar a Death Valley driver on the ring apron. He followed that up with a 450, but Escobar got the knees up. The kidnappers, Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, ran down to cause a distraction and probably give their ransom demand, I would imagine. But here comes Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. They run out to fight them off. Escobar ends up going headfirst into an exposed turnbuckle, and he takes the JML driver. Swerve Scott, surprisingly, retains his North American title. And Hayes and Williams, they step into the ring to raise his hand, and they're celebrating with him, only for Carmelo Hayes to level Swerve with a clothesline. And he signs his contract, the one that he won in this year's breakout tournament, which is good for a shot at the championship of his choosing. There's only been one other breakout tournament 2 years ago. They didn't do one last year. And that was the one that Jordan Miles won, ACH. And he chose to challenge Adam Cole for the NXT Championship, but it was not handled like a Money in the Bank cash-in. This was handled like a Money in the Bank cash-in, which I am not a fan of. But he cashed in, and he pinned Swerve to win the title after a guillotine leg drop to the back of the head, off the top rope. Carmelo Hayes is the new NXT North American champion. I don't hate the choice as champion. There's a reason that Hayes was my pick to win the breakout tournament in the first place. I think he's got it, whatever it is. He I think is going places. I think he's going to be a major star. But Santos Escobar does not get the respect that he deserves. That spells the end of Swerve and Hit Row on NXT. I don't know what that means for Legado del Fantasma. But if Hit Row is off to SmackDown, I see no reason why Legado should not have been shipped off to Raw. Meltzer this week suggested that the reason Escobar was passed over for a call-up may have had something to do with his age. He's 37 years old. Let's not act like 37 is too old to contribute and to be a star on the main roster. When Alberto Del Rio debuted on WWE television, he was 34 years old. And the reason they were so high on him is because they were looking for a Spanish-speaking star to add to their roster. Escobar speaks Spanish, but he also speaks fluent English. In the ring, his work speaks for itself. And he's only 3 years older than Del Dipshit was at that time. So the age excuse does not wash. It is nonsense. We're not talking about building the company around him. We're talking about adding a talent still in the prime of his career to a roster that could use him. So you're going to have to do better than that if you want to come up with a good reason to explain to me why this man should not be on Raw or SmackDown when Damian Priest is being pushed on Monday nights and he's 2 years older than Escobar is. So spare me the bullshit excuses. What does Damian Priest have that Escobar doesn't? I'll tell you what he's got. He's got about 8 or 9 inches in height. That probably has more to do with it than anything else. And that's still not a good enough reason not to call this guy up.